Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
How are you, sir?
Yes, I am fine, but I am unable to visualize other participants and you also because it's in slide full view mode, the screen.
Okay. No, no issues.
Yes.
No issues, sir. Okay.
Okay, so sir, shall we begin now?
Yeah, sure. It's 3 o'clock. We'll start.
Yes. Okay, Anaga, you may proceed.
Yeah, thank you, sir. A very good afternoon, all. We are now in session 3 of day 4 of Atal Sponsor FDP on Pharmaceutical Quality System for Product Life Cycle Management, organized by Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to our eminent speaker, Dr. Ajit Kulkarni, sir. Dr. Ajit Kulkarni sir is currently working as a professor and principal at Gauri Shankar Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, LIMS, Satara. Sir has completed his doctoral degree from Shivaji University and post-graduation from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bangalore. Sir has total 20 years of experience in academics along with industry experience. Sir was appointed as chairman of Institutional Ethical Committee of Arya Vaidak Mahavidyalaya, Satara, and also working as a member board of studies, DBATU Lonere. Research area of Sir mainly includes formulation and development of floating drug delivery system, novel mouth dissolving films, floating pulsatile drug delivery system, multi-component layer tablets, bioemulsifier application in pharma. Sir has published 3 books and filed 4 Indian patents. Also, Sir published more than 20 international and national research publications with total cumulative index 59.57 and H index 14, and about 20 review articles Sir has published. Also, he has delivered 15 presentations at national and international conferences. With this brief introduction, on behalf of Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur, we once again welcome you, sir. Now, we kindly request Dr. Ajit Kulkarni, sir, to proceed with his session on revitalizing strategies for pharma products.
Okay, thank you very much. Am I audible? Mari sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah, thank you. At the outset, let me thank organizing committee of this Atal FDP workshop on pharmaceutical product life cycle management. And I also congratulate Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy for this initiation for the betterment of faculty as well as the students. Okay. My today's talk will be revolving around revitalizing strategies for pharma products. My talk is divided into 2 parts. One is product development. What are the revitalizing strategies for product development, and what are the marketing strategies for existing products? So I'll be talking about in these 2 aspects. Before actually start with the presentation, let me share one story, because whenever we talk about revitalization strategies of existing pharma products, it means we are putting some kind of value to the product, and we are going to put some amrut into the product which is in mature phase or which is in decline phase, so that there will be rejuvenation of the product and the product can hit the market and it does well in the market. So there was I go with the one movie that is Telugu movie that is called as Anji. Basically, it's a Telugu movie, and then it was dubbed into Hindi movie that is called as Dilet, starring Chiranjeevi. So the story goes like this: there is one person, actually he's a villain, and he is running 99 years of his age, but he is very crooked and he does not want to die. He wants to rule the kingdom. So he is in search of Atmalinga. So that Atmalinga is present in Himalaya, and once every 72 years, Akashaganga from the sky uh, flows into this Atmalinga, and so this is a holy water which is present in Atmalinga. So there is a very ancient Shiva temple in the Himalaya, and Atmalinga is present over there. So whoever drinks this uh, holy water, he becomes young, energetic and having supernatural powers. So unfortunately, this uh, villain of the movie drinks this holy water, and automatically he becomes very young like 20 years of 20 years of his age, and he gains some supernatural powers. Okay, so this is the story of our interest. Later on, the hero of the movie, Chiranjeevi, he's unable to kill that villain, and Lord Shiva kills that villain. So that is another part. But what I mean to say is, uh, whether it is human life or whether it is a pharmaceutical product. So when the product is in mature stage, or if it is started, if it is starting in a declining phase, then we have to add some value so that the product can again does well in the market. Life cycle management. Actually, it is about creating and incremental investments of values. So we have to create some value, and that value has to be inculcated into the product. So that is all about life cycle management. So I won't be talking much about life cycle management, what is introductory phase and what is uh, growth phase and what is maturity phase. I'll be revolving around maturity and decline phase. So when we have an innovation, and we with that innovation we prepare some product, and if we market the product, so that is not just sufficient for business. So when we are talking about introduction of any product into the market, so what is the mindset of pharmaceutical organization? That is very important. So if your mindset is to just launch an innovation, then the product automatically comes to an end very soon. But your mindset is to build a business. Your mindset is to build a product. Your mindset is to build the brand. Then automatically, over periods of time, from the launch of the innovation, you start, taking reviews of the market. You start taking feedback of the customers or patients, and whatever lacunas are there, so you try to recover those lacunas, and you add some values to the product, so that there will be more acceptance by the customers, and the product hits the market. Generally, the Indian pharmaceutical industry is currently, passing through very tough phase. In these challenging times, companies are resorting to multiple measures to keep their financial books very strong. Among other things are they are selling off non-core businesses, then opting for general restructuring exercises, rationalizing their workforce, thinking much about research and development budgets, and improving their product mix. The main challenge in the market growth, uh, this is the main challenge, for the pharmaceutical industries, that they have to uh, they, they they have to invest something so that there will be growth in the market of their product. An industry that is used to growing at 14 to 16% annually is now showing only single digit growth. Now, in such situations, one of the wiser things for the pharmaceutical industries is to focus on revitalizing of mature brands rather than launching new molecules in the market. Typically, mature brands are several decades old and still selling but not growing much, which drags industry growth and profitability down. With the revival strategy, a mature brand could turn into high-selling product once again, generating handsome returns with negligible marketing expenses. This is very important. In contrast, if you think of newly launched product, then you need to have a lot of expenditure on marketing issues. and that too for several years. And if you do this, then also uh, the outcome of this attempt is uncertain. So the revitalization of old brands involve their remodeling by changing product composition, undertaking new clinical trials, adopting revised marketing strategies, reworking brand communication, communication with the doctors, as they are the first primary audience. Mature brands have starting advantage in brand heritage associated with them, which means they already have a very strong image in the mind of the customers, and some of them are considered not just effective, but they are having bold image in the mind of the customers or patient. Okay, uh, with why this has happened? Because of their tried and trusted safety profile acting as a bonus. Examples of mature brand, if you take, Benadryl is there, Rossini is there, Betadine is there. So these are the famous brands and have gained the trust of the customers. The typical life cycle of successful brand goes from launch to the success, then possibly from success to blockbuster status, and before it reaches to maturity begins to fade. Unfortunately, trends brands tends to suffer in-house neglect once they mature. If pharmaceutical companies are neglecting the brands, then automatically in the maturity phase, the product remains for very less time, and then again it starts declining. Some products are superseded by their competitor products because these competitor products are having very good, features. So that's how these products get decline. Now, for example, first introduced chlorpromazine, for it was introduced for preoperative sedation in 1952, but quickly recognized its possible utility for the treatment of psychotic patients in 1952. Now, iproniazid, the first monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which was antidepressant, failed in its intended use as a treatment for tuberculosis in 1950. But in clinical trials, significant elevation in the patient's mood was observed. Imipramine, the prototype monoamine reuptake inhibitor antidepressant, was synthesized as a candidate antipsychotic drug based on modifying the tricyclic monomolecular structure of chlorpromazine. So this is the story for this is serendipity, but overall the entire moiety is synthesized and then it came into the market. Now this is the typical product life cycle. I think earlier speakers might have talked about this product development and introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. I won't be talking much about these phases, but yeah, certainly I would touch upon maturity and decline phase. Uh, you know, uh, why products decline? That is very, very important. When the product is in maturity phase and then it starts declining, so what are the reasons? So there are many reasons, like strong competitor entry of strong competitor product, which is having very enhanced specifications, enhanced the features, like for analgesic products. Previously, analgesics were available as creams, as solid dosage forms. But nowadays, if you see, the analgesics are available as sprays. So automatically, sale of analgesic creams or tablet comes to an end, or it starts declining. Uh, if customers customers or patients needs are not met, then obviously customers shift from one product to another product. So this is again second reason for decline phase. uh, when the product is in maturity phase or it starts declining if pharmaceutical organization, uh, if they don't do much about value addition to the product, value addition as far as marketing context is concerned or non-marketing context is concerned. So pharmaceutical organizations are supposed to uh, inculcate some values into the product so that the product, when it is in maturity stage, it will again start growing. So that is the theory all about. Now this is the QTL guidelines. I think earlier speakers have touched upon technical and regulatory considerations for pharmaceutical product life cycle management. So I won't be going into details of these QTL guidelines, but yeah, I will uh, uh, focus on innovation and continual improvement, because this is very essential for new product as well as old products are concerned. That is because uh, it is not the case that once you create an innovation and out of that innovation you prepare a product, and if you market that product, so you are not supposed to look after that product in the context of innovation or in the context of continuous improvement. No, once the product is in maturity phase, yeah, obviously you have to think about what improvements you can do in the already marketed product, what innovation you can do about the existing product, so that the product life cycle can be extended. And uh, this is very good, good area for the pharmaceutical industries to look upon. That is because here you have a very wide scope for development of the drug products with better efficacy, yeah, basically safety, efficacy, and stability. Now, these are the few terminologies related with our presentation. Uh, Drug repositioning, drug repurposing, drug reprofiling, drug retasking, these are all synonymous terminologies uh, for discovering, researching, developing new therapeutic indications for drugs besides the indications that have been approved by drug regulatory authorities. The advantage of drug repurposing approach is that it shortens the duration of drug discovery and development process, because the safety profile of the drug, which is studied earlier, that is well known, and so that the phase 1 clinical trials can be skipped. So in addition, the drug repurposing can also reduce the total cost required for its process and lesser risk in the research. Now these are the few figures. According to the research, 1/4 of global pharmaceutical industry revenue comes from the 30% repurposed drug. See, this is very huge, and here the pharmaceutical companies are having wide scope. So every pharmaceutical companies have many products which are already in the market. So if they look upon these products and have some market reviews, get some statistics and do some analysis, obviously I feel many pharmaceutical companies would find that there are many drugs of their own, drug products of their own company, that these can be repurposed uh, for one or another reason, and that's how they can extend the life cycle of the product, and obviously they can earn very good benefits out of that. See, recently in 2020, 28 drugs were approved by US FDA. So yeah, including both novel as well as repurposed drugs. So out of 28, 12 were repurposed. See, you can almost, it is 40%, 50% around. Further, it is estimated that around 25 to 40% of annual pharmaceutical revenue are generated from the sale of repurposed drugs. So 40% is very huge figure, very high figure. If out of 100% of the annual pharmaceutical revenue is 40% is coming out of repurposed drug, then in future you can say that it may reach up to 60%, may reach up to 80%. And yeah, obviously, because it is not possible for every pharmaceutical organization to come up with the new molecules, because it is there are many challenges in development of new molecule. So many of the companies since 15-20 years they are repurposing the drug products. Now these are the benefits of LCM and repurposing: improved quality and reliability, reduced prototype cost, etc., reduce waste, and then high probability of technical and commercial success, etc. Now, drug repositioning has several advantages in comparison with the traditional approaches to the drug discovery. When comparing with the traditional drug discovery program, a significant reduction in the time spent in R&D can be, observed. In traditional approach, it is estimated that 10 to 16 years are spent for the development of new drug, while in drug repurposing or drug repositioning, the estimated time is around 3 to 12 years. So, and it costs, only $1.6 billion, whereas for new drug it costs around $12 billion. Moreover, researchers need 1 to 2 years to identify the new drug targets, and about an average of 8 years to develop a repositioned drug. A repositioned drug does not require the initial 6 to 9 years typically required for development of new drugs by traditional process, but instead enters directly to the preclinical testing and clinical trials, thus reducing the overall risk, time, and cost of the development. Now, reports suggest that repurposed drugs require approximately 3 to 12 years for getting approval from the regulatory authorities, and it reduced 50 to 60% cost. Now, at the beginning, repurpose the product or project, a range of preclinical, means pharmacological, toxicological, etc., and clinical efficacy and safety information is already available for a repurposed drug, as the candidate already has undergone through early stages of drug development, such as structural optimization, preclinical, and or clinical trials, in addition to possibility of candidate drug being an approved drug having its clinical efficacy and safety profile. In this way, there is a reduction of the risk associated with the failures. There are chances of failures, but as far as repurposed drugs are concerned, there are less chances of failures due to availability of previously collected pharmacokinetic, toxicological, and clinical and safety data at the start of repurposing development project. Advantage that are encountered with drug repurposing over traditional drug discovery approach are reduced time, then lower cost for the development, and reduce the risk of failure in the clinical development. So these are the benefits of life cycle management or repurposing of the drug products. It has estimated that time required for development of repositioning drug varies from 3 to 12 years, and which is about 10 to 17 years for traditional discovery program, with substantially with lower cost, which ensures repositioning companies significant saving in terms of time and capital. So these are the benefits for the repurposed drug if you go this way. And also due to availability of bioinformatics and chemoinformatics approaches, uh, or transcriptomics, then genomics. These data and database resources, this is targeted based on repositioning methods can be used to explore unknown mechanism of action, such as unknown targets for drugs, unknown drug similarities, new biomarkers for diseases, etc. So this is all about the benefits of LCM or repurposing. So this is a selection of LCM tactics in the pharmaceuticals. So here is the list of some of the strategies for revitalization. Uh, uh, Pharmaceutical companies can go with all or go can select one or two and can reposition the drug product. Generally, despite popular belief that the mature products do not always decline, perhaps opposite is the truth. Mature products are growing if they are managed efficiently. So mature products are growing if they are managed efficiently. It means if only market, if company does something in the marketing context, then also if the product is in maturity phase, then also it grows and it gives lot of profit to the pharmaceutical organizations. Okay, if your organization is seeing a decline in its performance of the mature products, assess whether this decline could be reverted with some R&D or marketing investment. So you have to think whether to go for R&D investment, do something in R&D, F&D, and can come up with a new product, or you can do something with marketing strategies, like you can go with change in packaging material, add some logo, change the name, or add some punchline, or change the color combination of the packaging material, or come up with very handy and convenient packaging material and relaunch the product in the market. So it's up to the company's attitude. So there will be times where the product itself is declining as it is no longer has used with the intended audience or intended population, where R&D is the only option. But you can maximize the value of your product by extending the maturity phase with some of the ideas in the presentation what I am right now showing. A proactive approach combined with the careful marketing management is therefore required. Revitalization strategies for mature brands uh, depend on the task at hand, and product innovation is one way out. This could involve reformulation, a shift in product composition to deliver the added benefits, or new drug delivery mechanism. New market could also be identified. So new market can also be means new population and new market if the product is uh, presently marketed in Asian countries, then can be marketed in African countries. So new market can be searched out and uh, market the product uh, in the new market. The generation of idea or generation of new data from recent clinical trials accompanied by some scientific papers, meta-analysis, repurposing molecule uh, would also grant a brand a fresh lease life to the product. Okay, so here are some of the strategies where pharmaceutical companies usually adopt. Okay, now here the first strategy is new indication. New indications are an early sign that a particular drug or procedure may be worth investing in further. For example, this company has that has already obtained a regulatory approval for a particular drug would report a new indication if their research suggests that the additional application for that drug might be possible. New indications are therefore viewed as positive development by most of the investors, since they could signify additional revenue generating opportunities for companies' existing products. Now, here I would like to share one story with you. This is the story of Fagil, metronidazole. You might have heard this brand, metronidazole brand and drug also. So this new indication widens the growth spectrum. Flagyl, uh, this was the product of May and Baker previously. Now this company, now it is called as Ron Polley. Uh, this was used. This flagyl was, being used mainly to treat giardiasis, and the company had found in the 60s that this their product was very effective in the treatment of amoebiasis, which was prevalent in India. So amoebiasis was prevalent in India in our early, childhood. There were many patients of amoebiasis. The company launched an aggressive promotion of flagyl in the treatment of amoebiasis and replaced the conventional treatment of amoebiasis with emmetine and dihydroemmetine injections. So this is the story of flagyl. Previously, it was used for giardiasis treatment. Now they entered in Indian market for the treatment of amoebiasis and replaced emmetine and dihydroemmetine, which was used for the treatment of amoebiasis. And flagyl even today remains one of the major brands of Ron-Polley. And this Ron-Polley was acquired by Nicholas Piramal. Okay, so this is the story of flagyl. Another story is about betnesol. You might have heard this brand also, betnesol, betamethasone. Now, betnesol injections had always been one of the most important brands of Glaxo. So Glaxo used to manufacture and market this uh, uh, betnesol. Now, betnesol injections were lagging behind uh, Decathlon injections, dexamethasone of Merin company. So this is the name of the company, Merin, and this Merin used to manufacture and market dexamethasone. Glaxo used to manufacture and market betnesol. Okay, and there was a very huge sale of Decathlon injections, and betnesol was selling at lesser rate. Glaxo, by promoting in one new indication, a 10 ampule course for myocardial infarction, changed their position dramatically. So Glaxo came up with one new packaging of 10 ampule course for myocardial infarction. And with this, their marketing strategy, it changed the image of the betnesol, which is a life-saving drug, and betnesol proved to be life-saving drug, and still today it is a brand leader, betnesol. So this is the story of betnesol. Now, in the indication, you have very recent example of remdesivir, initially for the treatment of hepatitis C virus infection, and then it was uh, unsuccessfully tested for Ebola, and now it was proved in COVID-19 pandemic. So it was used by many patients. It was given to the many patients remdesivir, and later on, ICMR said that remdesivir is not at all effective for the treatment of COVID-19. So this is another story of COVID-19 situation worldwide and what ICMR says about remdesivir. But yeah, uh, this remdesivir was used for new indication. Another example of for new indication is Judovodil. It's a failed cancer medication first synthesized in 1964, and it was approved 2 decades later for the treatments of HIV and AIDS. Previously, original indication was uh, failed cancer medication, and later on it was proved that it is effective for the treatment of HIV and AIDS. And in its new incarnation, it forms the backbone of global HIV treatment programs. And this particular drug saved lives of millions of patients. So this is the story of Judovudine. Now, very famous aspirin. Third example is aspirin. Initially, it was marketed by Bayer in 1899 as analgesic. So, aspirin was first repositioned, revitalized in 1980s at low doses as antiplatelet aggregation drug, and it is still widely used today in the second indication. Original indication is analgesic, and now it is used for uh, second indication. Here are other examples of new indication. Amphotericin B, it was original indication is functional fungal infections. Then in second indication it is used for leishmaniasis. Then you have minoxidil. Uh, Original indication is hypertension, and the new indication is hair loss. Then you have thalidomide, which was used for morning sickness, and then second indication it is used for leprosy, multiple myeloma, and very famous example that is sildenafil. So previously this drug was used for treatment of angina, and suddenly it was observed that it could be effective in the treatment of erectile dysfunction and pulmonary hypertension. And sildenafil is a very famous drug for second indication. Now another strategy is new dosage forms. Now this is again very important, and here pharmaceutical companies are having a very vast scope. If the product is already in the market, and it is in the maturity phase, so pharmaceutical companies can look for that particular product and can repurpose that product either in the conventional drug delivery system or in novel drug delivery system. Uh, Generally, active pharmaceutical ingredients are having one or another problem associated with their physical, chemical, and biological properties. Uh, Almost 70 to 80% of the marketed drugs are having one or another problem, characteristic problem associated with physical, chemical, and biological. But still, these APIs are marketed in one or another dosage form. Uh, since 25 years, many pharmaceutical companies are taking up this assignment that uh, there are old molecules, and the old molecules are having some kind of a problem. For example, some of the drugs are having solubility issues, some of the drugs are having particle size issues, some of the drugs are having some problem associated with chemical stability issues are there. So pharmaceutical companies are taking up this assignment and finding out the solution for this, and going for the product development, that is repurposing. And after development of product, it could be conventional drug delivery system or novel drug delivery system, either simple tablet or modified tablet, either simple emulsion or nano emulsion. If it is nano emulsion, then it comes novel drug delivery system. If you are preparing the simple emulsion, then it is a now conventional drug delivery system. So depending on the problem, depending on the situation, depending on the characteristics of the drug molecule, we have to select whether one goes with conventional drug delivery system or novel drug delivery system. And many of the pharmaceutical companies are coming up with new platform technologies, new delivery technologies. So there is a lot of emergence of such kind of technologies and platform drug delivery systems. And here are a few examples. That is Amorsol, that is a technology. It is nothing but amorphous nanoparticle. And as far as route of administration is concerned, it is for pre-oral, transdermal, and inhalation. And it is for improvement of solubility and dissolution. Okay, where it could be applicable, bioavailability enhancement. Yeah, obviously, dissolution rate is going to be increased. Bioavailability is going to be increased. Reduction of food effects. Some of the drugs are very less absorbed in the presence of food, so that problem is solved by this technology. So another one is nanosol technology. So it is a nanoparticle formulation, and with this technology, we can formulate dosage form for oral drug delivery, injectable delivery, topical, ocular, nasal, inhalation, etc. It has also solved many problems associated with solubility and by nano sizing, obviously, and achieving high loading in suspension. Generally, for conventional suspension, drug loading is very difficult because of several problems associated with uh, suspending agent and vehicle and stability of suspension. But I think in this nanosol technology, they have sorted out this technical problem, and it is applicable for the bioavailability enhancement, uh, stabilization of compound, minimize the food effect, long-acting injectable, so depot injections they might have prepared, lipid nanoparticles, injection site reaction reduction, etc. Then third technology is Emulsol technology. So this is nano emulsion formulation. So it comes under all these three technologies come under novel drug delivery system. And then it is suitable for oral, injectable, topical, ocular, nasal, inhalation drug delivery. Again, it is mechanism is solubilizing of lipophilic compounds, nanosizing, and enhancement of permeability. Again, this is one of the issues associated with many APIs, permeability issues. Okay. And bypass the first pass metabolism. So many drugs have this particular problem associated with them. Bypass first pass, uh, first pass hepatic metabolism, and this technology has bypassed this first pass metabolism. Here again, aspirin is there, new dosage form. Earlier it was used as an anti-analgesic, antipyretic, but lost its market to PCM and due to certain side effects of aspirin, and it was repositioned in the market with the safer dosage form as enteric coated tablet, buffer tablet, dispersible tablets. So new dosage forms are prepared for aspirin and again marketed, and it is doing, this product is doing well in the market. Here is again a few examples of novel drug delivery systems. This is nanoparticle paclitaxel, so nanoparticles. So this is our new formulation, change from ethanol surfactant solution to nano suspension, and it has got enhanced safety. Then PK properties are also enhanced. So this is the market value for that product. Then Allergan has come up with cycloserine ophthalmic emulsion. This is for new indication, change of route of administration, and creation of first line of treatment for dry eyes disease. And $1.41 billion in 2017 was the market value. And cyclosporin lipid microemulsions and lopinavir and ritonavir tablets by amorphous solid dispersion. So this is the fixed dose combination. New formulation it is. and it is enhancement of product bioavailability, which from register to RT storage, room temperature storage, and dose reduction. So if you go for novel drug delivery systems, or if you use new technologies, obviously you receive many advantages, and the product does well in the uh, treatment and as well as in the market. Apart from this, one can think about improvement of solubility, improvement of dissolution, improvement of bioavailability. You can have, think to reduce the side effects of the product. You can lower the dose of the product. You can achieve better patient compliance, like a transdermal drug delivery system, where if you apply a transdermal patch to the skin and uh, left it for 48 hours or 72 hours, yeah, obviously for 72 hours there is no treatment, other treatment or no second dose for the patient, and for 72 hours the drug will be releasing from the transdermal patch and it is treating the patient. So it is very good for the patient. So patient compliance is more for such products. Also, stability issues can also be sorted out for the new dosage forms, because now, for example, the drugs which are having ester moiety in their structure, they are prone for hydrolysis reactions. For example, I think penicillin is there. Correct me if I am wrong. Penicillin. Uh, Penicillin, if you put into the water, obviously hydrolysis reaction immediately starts and the drug starts degrading. Now, with the lyophilization technique, so this is the technology, lyophilization. Now, if you expose this drug for lyophilization process, and you can come up with lyophilized powder, and there are other packaging solutions for that. So in one compartment you have a lyophilized powder, and in second compartment you have sterile water for injection, and this duo combination is marketed. And when uh, injection has to be given to the patient, septum between these two compartments can be broken down, and uh, the powder automatically falls into the sterile water for injection. So you have to shake that particular injection for a while, for a few seconds, and you can take into the syringe and you can pierce to the patient. So that's how you have to think. You have to think how to solve the problems, how to solve the uh, uh, lacunas associated with the APIs. Okay. Another issues related with some of the drugs are drug products are some organoleptic issues. Yes, uh, some of the products are very bitter in taste. So, for example, azelastine. So this is a drug which is used for the treatment of allergy and non-allergic rhinitis. So original product is having 0.1% composition, and it just to be taken twice a day, but it's bitter in taste. Now the company replaced the excipient with the sucralose and sorbitol, and came up with a new formulation with 0.15%, and that too once a day. So this is how you have to think. If there is some issue with the product, some issue with the drug, you have to think in such a way that uh, uh, with the use of technology, with the use of excipients, with the use of novel technologies, novel excipients, with the help of novelties, you can sort out such a problem and you can find a solution. Now, for example, you can use some novel polymers, and you can improve the solubility issues associated with some of the products, some of the APIs, sorry. For example, you can use beta cyclodextrins, novel polymers are also there, and you can go for crystal engineering, where drug molecule associated with this hydrophilic polymer. So this is a combination or conjugation of drug molecule as well as the polymer. Either there is a chemical interaction, or if it is not there, then physical interaction, and the drug molecule gets accommodated uh, in the hydrophilic polymer. And the hydrophilic polymer, when put into the water, then it carries drug with that with itself. So that's how improving the solubility. Now, for example, ondansetron, that is a drug, you are well aware about it, ondansetron. So it is used for the treatment of nausea and vomiting. Now, it has come up with the new drug delivery system, that is mouth dissolving film. And the product name is Cetofilm, and it is manufactured and marketed by BioAlliance Pharma. Okay. So these mouth dissolving films are very, very popular nowadays, because there is no need of water, and at any stage of your life you can take up this product, and it gives a very good mouth feel also. So organoleptic properties, aesthetic properties are also good, and it is also having very good therapeutic efficacy. So another example is clonazepam, and the brand name is clonopin vapors. Clonopin vapors. It is manufactured and marketed by Solvay Pharmaceuticals. It is for the treatment of anxiety. So that's how you have to go with the drug product, find out the problem, address the problem, find out solution, and come up with a new product. This is all about this dosage form, but there are packaging issues associated with the product. In the 1990s until 2000, there were only two packaging material available, that is aluminum packaging, that is called as the strip packaging, and blister packaging. So blister packaging, the polymers used were PVC and PVDC, polyvinyl chloride and polyvinylidene chloride. So these three polymers were very, very famous in the pharmaceutical industry. But later on, there was emergence of because of research and development, obviously, many packaging materials like alu blister, packaging material. Then for counterfeiting, there are very smart packaging materials are also available with the pharmaceutical industries. If a problem is associated with the packaging material, the company has to think upon it and find out a solution, and you can use novel packaging materials for packaging of their products. Now, change of dosing routes. If the original commercial product's oral bioavailability was not optimized, and the pharmacokinetics are straightforward, it means there is a linear relationship between efficacy and the side effects, such that the lower dosing leads to lesser side effects but lower efficacy. And then it may be possible to switch to enhance fraction of absorbed drug using a different formulation, or to avoid the first pass loss using alternative route of delivery. Dosing routes, that is primarily used for increasing the bioavailability and to prevent the drug loss. Obviously, first pass hepatic metabolism is the big issue associated with many of the drug products. So if you want to bypass that, you can go with another route of drug delivery. You can change the formulation, and you can come up with a new solution. For example, midazolam, change of dosing route. Example is midazolam. Now, midazolam is anxiolytic drug used for the patient sedation. However, its use is constrained to parenteral delivery because of extensive first pass metabolism. Efforts have been undertaken to repurpose the drug for intranasal delivery, so that this first pass hepatic metabolism can be avoided. And the level of conscious sedation is rapid and equivalent to that achievable via intravenous route. So whatever is the bioavailability of parenteral route, that is achieved by the intranasal route. Another example is NSAIDs. Now, NSAIDs are show great utility in the pain management, but long-term use is often limited because of the gastric irritation. Repurposing oral diclofenac to be delivered by rectal route is also very promising area. So rectally, some of the products are being administered. Now, change of doses regimen. Now, as I told you about that product where anti-allergic product where the dose is ready. So there are occasions where dosing regimen of an approved drug may be non-optimal. As a part of repurposing program, you have to take an attempt to improve efficacy and or to reduce the side effects and to reduce the pill burden, such as switching from immediate release twice a day to modified release once a day program. However, if the efficacy and safety profile of the drug are not straightforward, it may be the case that by changing the dosage regimen, the pharmacokinetic profiles are also modified sufficiently for the regulatory agencies to require further clinical studies. For example, if a drug is metabolized, the drug is metabolized by an enzyme, but the same drug also inhibits the enzyme at higher concentration. It is possible that a reduced dosing level might lead to an increase in metabolite that could lead to unanticipated side effects. So you have to choose dosage regimen. You have to choose very carefully. Now, targeting a different population. It means originally you received approval for your drug for certain population, for example, adult, and now you received a regulatory approval for another population, that is for geriatric patients or pediatric patients. For example, so this example will clarify what is meant by patient population or different population. This is Actan, it exists. So this is a direct thrombin inhibitor. The brand name is Pradaxa. So original indication approval given in October 2010, and the patient population altered given approval given in June 2021 recently. Now these Pradaxa capsules are indicated for reduction of risk of stroke and systemic embolism in adult patients, for the treatment of deep venous thrombosis and pulmonary embolism in adult patients, for the treatment of venous thromboembolic events in pediatric patients age group 8 to 18, and to reduce the risk of recurrence of EAT in pediatric patients from 8 to 18 years of age. So this is the story for this products. Capsules are indicated for adults also. These are approved for pediatric patients also, and oral chelates are approved for the same treatment for the patients having age 3 months to 10 years of age. This is patient population altered.
Sorry for the disturbance, sir. All the participants are requested to mute their mics.
Okay. Matching the mechanism of action of disease. This is again very important, where you can go with fixed dose combination if you know the mechanism of action of both the drugs or more than 2 drugs. If you know the mechanism of action, and if you feel that if you can go for fixed dose combination, and you can exploit the synergistic effects, and you can see whether there is improvement in the efficacy and reduce the side effects. So this strategy, can be useful for modulating two aspects of the biological target that would improve efficacy, help delay or prevent adaptation that lead to drug resistance. So drug resistance is very big issue for single drug therapy. But if you are going for fixed dose combination, then diseases like HIV, tuberculosis, oncology, other diseases where drug resistance is there for single drug therapy, you can go for fixed dose combination. Though fixed dose combination is not suggested by WHO, so this is one of the strategies. Now, the very good example for matching of mechanism action of disease, that is ritonavir. Okay. Although this particular drug was originally developed as a standalone treatment for to inhibit HIV protease, subsequent studies found that it effectively inhibits cytochrome P450, PA4, and drug efflux mechanisms, which are PGP mediated. Ritonavir is currently used in combination with other HIV therapies to boost or augment the bioavailability of co-administered antiretroviral drugs. Ritonavir has been used in combination with atazanavir, ciprofloxacin, and lopinavir. Patient adherence is also improved by developing fixed dose combinations. This is very important. To reduce the pill burden, if a pharmaceutical organization goes for fixed dose combination, automatically there would be greater patient compliance. The recent COVID-19 pandemic has given us huge drive towards the repurposing existing antiviral drugs to treat the diseases. Based on known structure of virus, computational studies uh, to assess the potential efficacy of lopinavir, oseltamivir, and ritonavir in the disease. So this is being tried. Okay, so this is the very good example for matching the mechanism action, how you can go with fixed dose combination. Now here you have a prescription to OTC switch. This is again very important. Now ivermectin class. So this is a lotion, 0.5% is the strength. So this is recently been given approval for prescription to non-prescription drug. So this is available as OTC product. And Global Market Insight has predicted 5.5% compound annual growth rate for global OTC drug sales between 19 to 24, with prescription to OTC switches being the primary contributor. This is very important. Why this is important? Because it is switching from prescription to non-prescription is beneficial for patient, beneficial for retailer, beneficial for pharmaceutical companies, and beneficial for health economy. Pharmaceutical companies, if they come up with this prescription to non-prescription product, obviously their sale is going to be increased, and companies may earn more benefits out of that. For patient, yeah, obviously patient may go directly to the retailer and ask for the product, and without interference of physician, without interference of insurance, so he or she can treat the disease or disorder on its own. So this is benefit for, and yeah, obviously patients may get variety of the products in the retail shop. How it is beneficial for retailer? Retailer, if already existed brand is there, and the pharmaceutical company came up with the version of OTC, over the counter product of the same brand. Then already the customers are having in their mind the brand image, and if the same product is available as OTC market, so it is beneficial for the retailers as there will be more options or more products on his shelves, and he will be offering more variety to the customers or patients. So this is very, very important prescription to OTC switch. In addition to the life cycle extension, increase the patient demand for OTC products. See the examples. Allergy sufferers who use OTC have gone up from 66% to 75%. So this much is the increase uh, in the allergy sufferers. So because anti-allergic products are generally OTC products, so they generally ask for such products to the retailer and try to uh, take treatment on their own. When nicotine replacement therapies went over the counter, there was a 150 to 200 patient increase in their purchase and use in the first year after the switch. This is very, very huge. It means patients do not want interference of anybody, physicians, insurers, or other health workers. So this shows the attitude and tendency of the patients or customers. Increased access, level tens of thousands of smokers to use these products to help quit smoking. That's this much, $2 billion. This is very, very huge. So this is the benefit out of prescription to OTC switch. Now next generation product. Here you can have the modification of the chemical structure. Either you can remove the functional group, or you can add functional group. You can go for product preparation, or you can go for some other structural modification, and you can come up with the new product. Like this is benzimidazole derivative omeprazole, which was marketed in 1988. Then with the structural modifications, lansoprazole 1991, pantoprazole 1994, rabeprazole. So the prazole moiety is there. Benzimidazole, this moiety is present, and only structural modifications are done. So here, 1988 to still it is 2009. All the products are running in the market. All the products are doing well in the market and giving a lot of profit to the companies. Same drugs with many dosage form. Now, omeprazole is available as enteric coated tablet, capsule, chewable tablet, powder for oral suspension, powder for intravenous injection. So, if this is the case that one product is available with many dosage form, then it gives a kind of advantage to the physicians to prescribe the drug, because omeprazole is a drug where which can be given for prescribed for geriatric patient, adult patient, pediatric patient, etc. So physicians is having a lot of choice, because physicians is facing all types of patients, treating all types of patients. So he may have a choice, and if suppose 10 adult patients he receives a day, 20 geriatric patients he treats a day, and some 4 to 5 pediatric patients, then obviously if omeprazole is prescribed for 50% of the patient, obviously sale of omeprazole is going to be increased, as there is a lot of choice to the physician and lot of choice to the patients. Now here I sum up with the product development strategies. Now I'll shift to the marketing strategies. Now marketing strategies are very, very important. Hardly in another 15 to 20 minutes I'll finish up with the presentation. What we have to see in the marketing strategies, that how my product does well and does more in the market. That is very, very essential. By taking up the some of the marketing strategy. Now, first marketing strategy is uh, enhance the product, add new features. Now, a common tactic for rejuvenating the mature product is to add some value to the product by adding new features and capabilities so that the product does more. Often, organizations will identify core features of competing products. So you have to think about competitor products also, and you have to see what are the features of competitor product and how these competitor products features we can add into our product, or we can do better than the competitor, and add these features to our mature brand with the view of relaunching the product with a new look. Manufacturing and formulation features can also be enhanced, like manufacturing and formulation features can also be added. It means if you are using some nanotechnology for the formulation purpose, then you can come up with the nano gel in the marketing. So the punchline you can put nano gel or improved formula, or that sort of punchline you can use in the packaging material. Or you can, if you are using some packaging material which is eco-friendly one, then uh, uh, you can advertise your product with intention of uh, at, intention of attracting more customers on that particular aspect of eco-friendly, of uh, green packaging material, etc., etc. So you have to think, you have to do research also as far as marketing strategies are concerned. Now, before I go to the second slide, here I would like to quote one story. Let us have one story so that you will also have some kind of break from the listening. KFC, you all know. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I'll tell a story about this, how this KFC rooted in India, how this KFC opened outlets in India. Uh, what was the introductory phase for this KFC? How they tackled this, tackled many challenges, and set up many outlets in India. Okay, so it's a food restaurant chain specializing in fried chicken, and basically it's a US company. Uh, it's world's second largest restaurant chain. Uh, Even after means McDonald's is number one and KFC is second one. So KFC first opened two-storied outlet in a very popular and lavish area of Bangalore. So first outlet in June 1995. So listen carefully. It opened first outlet in Bangalore in June 1995. As soon as it opened the first outlet, it faced huge opposition from the several unions. You know, in our India, there are many unions. Uh, we hundreds and thousands of unions are there. So there is one union called as, or association called as Anti-Foreign Investment Farmers Association. So that's association, and that association objected KFC for opening the outlet. And there were other issues of environment and onslaught of consumerism, etc., etc. And that's why the KFC uh, shut down the outlet. When it shut down the outlet in September 1995, opened in June 1995, they had to close down outlet in September 1995. But KFC again opened one more outlet in Delhi. I think it is in 2004. It opened one more outlet. One more, no? Again, the first outlet in Delhi, because Bangalore outlet was closed. But again, the same problem was faced, same challenges were faced by KFC. And again, they had to shut down outlet in Delhi. Now, The authorities of KFC thought about why this is happening. So they studied the Indian culture. They studied the Indian spices. They studied the Indian dishes of different areas. So if you go north, there is different spices they are using. Dishes are also different. So according to the zone, the spices and dishes are different in our India. So they started a menu, perhaps the most extensive first ever meat-free menu. तो उसमें वो चिकन नहीं था. So introduced vegetarian menu that included rice meal, then some side dishes, vegetarian side dishes, and eggless mayonnaise and sauces. And according to their marketing director, so he was the Unnat Verma, he was the marketing director. He has made KFC a more relevant brand to majority of the Indians. So slowly, when KFC started serving Indians with the vegetarian menus with Indian spices, slowly the Indians started accepting KFC. Okay, and KFC in 2008 and 9, KFC operated outlet in all major cities. And they started with chicken dishes, so nobody objected. In 2013, the total number of outlets of KFC were 296, and right now it is having more than 400 outlets in India. Pizza Hut and another company also had to customize its menu to Indian needs. What I mean to say, how KFC penetrated the Indian market, how KFC came up with the challenges, and how KFC modified their dishes according to the Indian context. So this is the very good example for the marketing. Another example related with search engines are there, Yahoo is there, Google is there. Now why this Google and Yahoo, they are offering search facilities in Indian languages. Bengali is there, Marathi is there, Tamil is there, Telugu is there, Hindi is there. So that is to penetrate the Indian market, so that Indians will accept these search engines and they will earn more profit. So this is the marketing strategies. Now this is product distinction through packaging and advertising. This is called as rebranding also. So Volini is there. Okay. So Virat Kohli is advertising this Volini. Now this Volini previously it was manufactured and marketed as simple cream. Now it is available as Volini Max, LAXX, and it is having a very good effect, therapeutic effect. So this is diclofenac diethylamide. So it contains diclofenac diethylamide. So when the products tire with the perception of these products changing, often rebrand with a shift in branded elements can energize a mature product. A new name, a new term, new symbol, design, or a new concept, or combination of all of them, or combination of few, can be treated for an with the intention of developing a new differentiated identity in the minds of consumers or customers. Changing the image of mature product can alter uh, perceptions and extend the maturity phase. Potentially, even growing the sales of product. Wellspring, for example, such as the packaging changes may also be examined to extend the life cycle of the products. Typically, these are changes to the physician samples that lead to better patient compliance. Now, what is the example? Like physician samples of solid dose products are generally closed in single blister unit. If, for example, a 7-day regimen given to the patient, then multiple units can be provided. By moving to a 7-unit blister or a 7-count bottle may assist the patient to adhere to the regimen. And in addition, by moving to the alternate packaging format, cost effectiveness may be benefited. So this is how you have to work on the packaging material and advertising or rebranding, and you can add some values to the product. Another example is Strepsil. Now previously Strepsil comes in pouches. Now Strepsil comes in very handy tube version. Correct. So this is convenient, convenient to carry, and also protection from humidity. Okay. Move pain relief specialist was earlier available as tubes and creams, but now Ricketts and Nextler also made it available as aerosol spray, which is convenient, easy to apply, and thus has a better patient compliance. Okay. Now, this is the Fevicol story. So we have forgotten adhesive, but we know Fevicol. When we at our home, when we ask for, we are in need of adhesive, we do not ask for adhesive, we ask for Fevicol. This is how that Fevicol is inculcated in our minds. And the way Fevicol has advertised this product, so it's in mind of the customers. So whenever we go to the shop, we ask for Fevicol. We do not ask him, कौन सा adhesive है, give me adhesive, but rather we ask for Fevicol, because they have again a very good story. Fevicol, there were times where there was no good adhesive for wood, laminate, and plywoods, etc. The available adhesives, if you apply between the wood and laminate, between two plywoods, then it is to debond. It is to debond. So Pidilite, that is R&D of Research and Development section of Pidilite, Fevicol, came up with a very good product that is called as Fevicol Marine. If you go to any shop and you ask for Fevicol Marine, that's a very good product. So Fevicol Marine was developed by Pidilite. So the Fevicol Marine, if you apply between the plywood and laminate, or between two plywoods, or wood and laminate, or any two woods, so it does not debond. Even if you expose this particular wood to extremes of temperatures, extremes of water, extremes of humidity, all extreme conditions, if you expose this particular product, it won't debond. So this is Fevicol Marine. So Fevicol Marine enjoyed great success in the market and was able to capture sizable market share across the country. Okay. If you are doing research and development only for the marketing purpose, then that is not sufficient. You have to have add some value to the product. Value in terms of stability, value in terms of efficacy, value in terms of safety, stability, etc. Then and then only your product will stay in the market for more period time. The essence of brand and brand extensions continued to focus on changing consumer preferences, and hence were successful and gained the market popularity. This is about Fevicol. So though this is a non-pharma product, I felt that I should put this Fevicol story over here. And the way Fevicol advertised its brand, it's fantastic. Even now also we recognize and we recall this Fevicol advertisement. So this is 1, 2, 3 advertise I have put over here. Fevicol ऐसा जोड़ लगाए यमराज भी तोड़ न पाए. So there are many fantastic advertisements given by this Fevicol. So this is the last and third marketing strategy. Outsource wherever possible. This is again very, very important. Many times it happens that manufacturing companies are involved in R&D and then product development and then manufacturing, and they have their own team of marketing. But nowadays, new concepts uh, are introduced in the market that there are marketing consultants. They have their own team. What they say, you give your product to us, we will think about the marketing of that product, and we assure that the product can be sold in the market in a very good by very good rate, and you will earn more profit. Uh, so if pharmaceutical companies are not having experts as far as marketing is concerned, then I feel pharmaceutical companies should outsource these marketing issues with the third parties and can enjoy the benefits. So generally, pharmaceutical marketing managers are preoccupied with launching. So if the company is having many products, and so the marketing team of that company, if that company team is engaged in marketing of new products, then obviously repurposed drug marketing lags behind. So repurposed drug product and its marketing, if it is given to the third party, then it is always beneficial. For example, I'll tell you, Goodyear tires. You everybody knows about tire Goodyear. So Goodyear tires uh, were lagging behind in the sales. So what Goodyear decided that let us hand over all this marketing and sales issues to third party. So they uh, handed over this issue to Walmart, Sears, and Discount Tire. So these are the companies. And as soon as Goodyear handed over the marketing and sales issues to these agencies, it immediately boosted the sale of the tires. So that's the story. So if you are not having enough team, if you are not having expertise, then obviously you should seek guidance from the third parties, and you can enjoy the benefits. So this is all about my presentation. Uh, to sum up, I feel that uh, pharmaceutical organizations should think in two ways: one, marketing issues and non-marketing issues, and can repurpose the drug in a very effective manner. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Over
you
to you,
so much.
Anagha.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative session. Now I request all the participants to unmute your mic and ask question directly, or you can place your question in WhatsApp group.
They face during drug.
Please repeat the question.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay. My question is, what kind of challenges could we face during drug repurposing?
Yeah, actually, this is answer to this question. Uh, I have to give in a generalized way, because according to the active pharmaceutical ingredient and according to the existing drug product, the challenges are different. You know, challenges could be change of dosage form, and when you are thinking of change of dosage form, shifting from conventional drug delivery system to novel drug delivery system, then different challenges you may face. Regarding solubility issues are there, regarding release mechanism, release of the drug from the dosage form. So such issues, dosage form development issues are there. It all depends on what type of product you intend to prepare. If you are going for ophthalmic, then challenges are different. If you are going for injectable route, challenges are different. If you are going for a rectal route, challenges are different. So, generalized way, we cannot answer this question. If active pharmaceutical ingredient, if you know, and if you know that this active pharmaceutical ingredient in its tablet form is available in the market, and we have to repurpose this particular tablet in injectable route, correct? So we have to think on the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of the drug. Then, uh, what are the characteristics of the tablet and what we intend to prepare? Uh, Once a day dosage form or twice a dosage form? What type of polymer we intend to use? What type of a system we want to prepare? So depending on these challenges will be different.
Okay, sir. Does it involve the clinical trials?
See, again, the same answer I would give. Uh, Generally, clinical one studies, preclinical studies are you can bypass. The rest of the studies you have to follow. That also depends on at what stage you are going to modify the drug or drug product. Depending on that, you can skip some of the clinical trials.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, we have received another question, that is, why is brand revitalization and brand reinforcement is important in managing brand equity?
Yes, yes, yes. If suppose, for example, mm, uh, the diclofenac sodium, if you take diclofenac sodium diethylamide, if you take this API. Now, can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Why is brand revitalization and brand reinforcement is important in managing brand equity?
Yeah, obviously, for the betterment of better life cycle management of that drug, and to serve the customers or to serve the patients for the better therapeutic efficacy, for better stability and better uh, safety profile, and obviously for the building the brand, for the purpose of building the brand and earning the profit. So these are the issues.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Sir, can the change in formulation of any drug can be said as drug repurposing?
What changes you intend to do?
Change in formulation of any dosage form.
Formulation you want to change, okay. Yeah, I told you in my presentation that new dosage form you can prepare, so that can be repurposed, repositioned product.
Okay, sir.
I told you the example of Volini. Volini, that is analgesic spray available right now in the market. And previously, when it entered the first time in the market, it was available as cream. The same product now available as spray, aerosol spray.
Yes, sir.
Sir, the next question is, what are the critical success factors for pharma life cycle management?
If you ask me for overall life cycle management, life if we talk about life cycle management, it starts with drug development, product development, then introduction phase, and then after introduction, growth phase, and then maturity, and then decline. In all these phases, there are challenges. For product development, that is which is called as pre-introductory phase, where research and development or formulation development department is working on that. So their intention is to prepare such a dosage form which is having very good therapeutic efficacy, good safety profile, good stability profile, and very less side effects. So these are the 4 objectives for the product development. So when you want to achieve these 4 objectives, there are many hurdles and many challenges that a scientist come across. You know? Then when the product is introduced in the market, in the introductory phase, generally it happens that it does not hit the market. You know, so you have to be very patient. You have to wait for some period of time. You have to not only focus on product quality, but you have to focus on marketing strategies as well. So with the help of marketing strategies, when the drug product is in introductory phase, you have to see to it that how that product will come into the growth phase from introductory phase. Because in introductory phase, your product is new to the market, customers are new to this product, so customer acceptance is bit delayed. That's why the product moves very slowly, and once the customers accept the product, then and then only the product comes out of introductory phase and it goes into the growth phase. Now in the growth phase, everything seems to be goody-goody, because the product is selling at a very high rate. Company is earning too much profit. Customers' needs are satisfied. So everything goes goody-goody. Now here is the real net. When your product is in growth phase, at the same time, the competitor company is involved into the preparation of the same product or similar product with the enhanced features. And after the growth phase immediately ceases, or the competitor product comes into the market and growth phase stops and it comes into the maturity phase. Now the product comes into the maturity phase, and that your product is having 3-4 competitors with you. Now here, if the pharmaceutical company is not thinking about revitalization strategy, then obviously the product, because competitor products are having better features, better characteristics, better patient compliance, etc., etc. So obviously your product, as it was, now it is considered as the old product. So it has already gone from the minds of the consumers or customers. Here you have to think of the revitalization strategies. If you don't think of revitalization strategies, and if you don't do repositioning of your drug product, then obviously it goes to decline and it ceases to.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I hope I give answer to your question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, if we consider the product once when it is manufactured into the company, and so we can say this is one phase, and when it is came out of the factory, we can say it is in distribution phase. So the question is, or we can discuss on this is, are there some indicators that indicate that the product needs some revision, or we can say revitalizing after once means when it comes out of the industry?
You mean to say the product is yet to reach to the market?
Yes. Are there some indicators?
Yes. Because see, if you want to market your product into your intended market, okay, before actually your product reaches to the market, your marketing team already has done their homework. They have studied about the market. They have studied about the patient population. they have studied the physicians. In another context, if you talk about generalized product, they have studied the mentality and attitude, interest of the customers, what they like, what they don't like, what are the likes and dislikes of distributor, what are the likes and dislikes of consumers. Okay, and they gather the data. Once the data is gathered, they treat the data statistically. And after statistical treatment to that data, they come to one conclusion. And after the conclusion, they suggest to the marketing wing of the manufacturing company that yes, this product has to be marketed in such in particular zone. And this is the marketing strategy for this XYZ product in this XYZ zone. Many times it happens that once the marketing team on the field gave its opinion to the marketing wing of the pharmaceutical company, and if there is delay in the manufacturing, if there is delay in the distribution of the product, and in that period, between period, if there is entry of competitor product, with the marketing team which was there on the shop floor in the market was unaware, if the competitor product comes, or some of the economic, there are economical changes, economical changes are there, or some cultural changes are there, then obviously the marketing team which is there at shop floor, it again reviews and send revised marketing strategy to the marketing wing of that pharmaceutical company, and then the marketing wing of that company sends this information to the manufacturing, and then the manufacturing people, they do changes in the product.
Thank you, sir.
Hope you are satisfied.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
Sir, there is another question that which parameter are considered while any type of the products revitalization as far as the concern with the commercialization to earn more and more profit by that industry?
Okay, very difficult to answer this question because our company's main intention is to earn the profit.
Yes.
Now, profit can be earned by two ways, as I told you. One, you improve the product, or you formulate such an advertising and marketing strategy where you can beat the competitor products with your advertising, and you can hit the customers, you can hit the consumers, and you make your customers, you make your consumers feel that this is the best product. So you have to use marketing strategies for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Can you just elaborate the difference between drug repurposing and repositioning?
Yeah, these are synonymous terminologies. Repurposing, repositioning, retasking. These are synonymous terminologies which are used more or less at single platform.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So as a strategy for product survival, if company changes brand name of the product and also lowers the cost of the product, but still if product is not getting that much of demand, then what strategy company will adopt to sell out that batch or that product?
Yeah, there are examples. There are examples that because of change in the name or change in the logo, there was no much change in the sales, and company has to sell its product to another company. There are many examples. So why this happens? Because company has a shortfall of manpower. This is very important. So you need to people who are having very good intellect. uh, in the area of R&D, in the area of manufacturing, in the area of research and development, and in the area of marketing and PMT. So if you are investing more money, so you have to invest. No, first of all, you have to invest more money in the marketing strategies. And if I feel that if you uh, don't invest much on the marketing strategies, then the marketing of your product is going to be, sale is going to be at a lesser rate. And now why these companies? Because many times it happens that companies, the expenses whatever are incurred for marketing or manufacturing, these are huge, and companies can't afford it. That's why they are selling their brands to competitor products, because your competitor is having very huge image of their products. The name is it's a brand in the industry and in the market. They have a lot of money, so they can do whatnot things. So that is why you cannot, play wrestling with the giants. So that is the case.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, revitalization is one of the major steps taken by the industry for earning more profit and giving or boosting that brands of that particular industry. So, my question is that, is there any example that the company do many more investment for the boosting of that brand, that is the revitalization, and they got loss in such a process?
Tata Sierra, very good example.
Okay.
Tata Sierra. Yes,
Okay.
there are many examples in and around us,
Okay.
in the electronic, then automobile, in pharma, then furniture also. Many examples are there. So they had to even for Maruti, Tata Maruti one brand was there. Yeah, I am unable to recall that brand name of Maruti. So, but Tata Sierra was there. So that is the best example, Tata Sierra.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Reliance first time launched their mobile phones.
Mobile phone, yeah.
I am
Yes.
a user. I am a user of that Reliance phone.
Nokia 1600, I think so.
No.
1300.
It was a different look.
Okay.
It was a different look, and it was written as Reliance on the phone also. So it was manufactured by Reliance, or they manufactured from third party and put their name. And the case was, if you want to take Reliance connection, then you have to take their own mobile and own SIM card. So that was the case. And later on, that strategy failed. So there were many issues associated with that phone. And that brand vanished in the market. So I used that phone.
Yes.
Dear participants, if anyone have any questions or query, please ask directly. Okay. Now I would like to request Mr. Yuvraj Dange sir to sum up today's session.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, ma'am. Good evening to all. Myself, Yuvraj Dange, Assistant Professor, Anna Sahib Dange College of Pharmacy, Hasta. First of all, I would like to thank you, Chief Coordinator of this Atal FDP, Miss Professor Dr. Bhatia ma'am, Coordinator Mali sir, for giving me an opportunity to sum up this session on the behalf of Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. Dr. Kulkarni sir has given a brief information on life cycle management for building brands. Sir has also discussed some technical and regulatory consideration for pharmaceutical product life cycle management, as well as benefits of LCM in a very nice way. Sir has also explained the term drug repositioning, drug repurposing, drug repropelling, drug discovery in a simple way. Sir has also explained new indication terms by giving example of Judourin, aspirin, amphotericin B with their specific use. Sir has also explained revitalization of older marketed drug product with using new innovative drug delivery technologies platform that will help to patenting new formulation protection which offer an effective tools for product life cycle management. Sir has also given an overview of new dosage form by giving example of aspirin and their products, which formulation technology is used for formulation along with regulatory pathway, its value proposition, and its current market value. Sir has also discussed the change of dosage regimen with their merit as well as demerit. Sir has also discussed some marketing strategies for enhancing the product by adding extra new features in the formulation that will make us to sustain in the market. Sir has highlighted about the rebranding. Sir has also discussed outsourcing of pharmaceutical product with different promotion techniques. Thank you very much, Kulkarni sir, for giving us an overview on revitalizing strategies for a pharma product in a wonderful way. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kulkarni sir, once again on the behalf of all the participants as well as Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I, Miss Anga Asgekar, on behalf of Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur, take this opportunity to thank our eminent speaker for his wonderful presentation and valuable time. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I request all the participants to turn on your camera so that we can have a photo with our eminent speaker.
Thank you so much, sir. Kulkarni sir. Kulkarni sir, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, madam. Thank you for your invitation. I hope I have given justice
Thanks
to the
a lot for
team.
your. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yes, Anga, you can proceed now.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I would like to announce that today's session for day 4 are concluded and link for feedback will be pasted in WhatsApp group shortly. I would like to mention that there is a little change in tomorrow's schedule. The first session of day 5 will start sharply at 9 am instead of 10 am. So kindly take note of this. I request all the participants to join tomorrow using the same link 10 minutes before the actual time for Atal sponsor FDP on pharmaceutical quality system for product life cycle management organized by Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Pharmacy, Kolhapur. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I leave?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.